God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I want to welcome everybody to the Treasure Map meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is an open speaker meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. We are glad you are here, especially newcomers, in keeping with our singleness of purpose and our third tradition, which states that the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. We ask only all who participate confine their discussion to their problems with alcohol. The AA preamble, reprinted with the permission by Grapevine Incorporated. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues, fees for a membership, for we are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not aligned with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help alcoholics to achieve sobriety. We want to send a special welcome to anyone here out of town. Please stand and introduce yourself at this time if you would.
Tyler Alcoholics from Brookings, South Dakota.
Thanks for coming. Glad to have you. Thank you, Dave. Glad to have you. Also, is there anyone here at the Treasure Map meeting for the very first time? Please stand and introduce yourself. Thanks for coming. Go ahead.
Travis Boyer from Brookings.
Travis. And my Chiefs fan here, we got to get her in. Thanks for coming.
Tyler Alcoholics.
Thanks. Thanks for coming. Finally, is there anyone here at the first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous? Please stand and introduce yourself. We want you to know we're very glad you are here and that you are welcome. We have a special gift for you. Please see me at the break and I will present it to you. Anybody know? Okay. Please feel free to use Treasure Map meeting step cards, which are over here. They are a way to give contact information to new people, invite others to our group. All are welcome. Now, I would like to welcome Dennis to come up and read how it works.
Dennis, alcoholic? Yes. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to a simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. They are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living in which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders. But many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in general the way that we used to be, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these, we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, and powerful. Without it, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandonment. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. We admitted that we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. We were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. I should be saying the number. 8, made a list of persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends with them all. 9, made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry His message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order! We cannot go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to be the agnostic, and to our personal adventures before us and after we make clear 3 pertinent ideas. That we are alcoholic and could not manage our own lives, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism, and that God could and would if He were sought. You bet.
Thank you very much, Dennis. And the 7th tradition states that every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. If you do not carry cash with you, online fulfillment of the 7th tradition is available. If you give online, please take one of the cards and place a basket. As it is passed, we thank you for your support. Your donations to the Treasure Map meeting support all our group activities. In addition, they pay the rent, coffee, snacks, and literature. Plus, we happily support the local Sioux Falls Internet, South Dakota Regional District 5, statewide Area 66, and General Services Office supporting Alcoholics Anonymous around the world. Now, would you please welcome Jack to read the just about lost it. Come on up. Congratulations. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jack. I'm an alcoholic. A little loud. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as He may express Himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA, as such, ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. Sorry, I choked. Welcome.
Thanks, Jack. Let's see. And now for, maybe that's better. For a few announcements, please, we want to invite each of you to consider attending the following upcoming events. Working Steps Workshop, which we held here September 10, or steps 10, 11, and 12, September 28th of this year from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Please bring your big book and willingness. We suggest a donation of $20 per person would be appreciated. However, full and partial scholarships are offered. For more details, to pre-register, go to treasuremap.com. Doors open at 8:30 in the gym right here at Faith Lutheran Church. Please take flyers to your home group and other meetings and pass the word.
That's treasuremapmeeting.com.
Treasuremapmeeting.com, excuse me. Okay. And then tonight we have birthday night. And in keeping with that, the first birthday that we're celebrating is Jason with 1 month. Jason, would you come up and get your check? Jason alcoholic.
Thank you.
And then we also have for our next birthday, Jack with 4 months.
Hi, again. I'm Jack. I'm an alcoholic. I always come back to just step one was really hard for me. Step one was tough because I always thought maybe there's a chance that I can try it again and not overdo it, but that never did happen. So I'm so grateful for this program, and I'm grateful for all the friends I've made in it. So thank you all.
Then the next birthday is for 4 months, and that would be Dennis.
Thank you, sir. Dennis, alcoholic. I'm so grateful for this. I tell you what, I can't believe it's been 120 days. It's been great to get my life back and get my family to remember so they can remember how I used to be. So with that, thank you.
And then our next birthday is Matt with 8 months. Come on up, Matt.
Oh, cool. Thanks, bro. Thank you. Matt, alcoholic. Wow, 8 months. You know, there was a time when I had eight months sobriety in the past, and at the time, I think I probably didn't really think it was all that big a deal then. But this 8 months feels to me to be a much more solid 8 months of sobriety. A friend once put it in my first go around through AA and being sober for some time. I was kind of just like, I was on the periphery of AA. And so I had a sponsor, I worked the steps, kind of. But I was always just like, one foot was still my foot that I was in control of that was outside. And then one foot I kind of would dip into AA. But now I no longer sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? I take it more seriously this time, for lack of a better word. And I think first and foremost is I have a different relation with my higher power before. Like, I've never had an issue with God, believing God and all that good stuff. But I've developed a more consistent manner of talking with God and just, you know, letting him know I'm there for him instead of, like all in the past, letting him know I was there. What could you do for me? And I think another big change that has made a difference this time around I would say in working with my sponsor, who is a man who I believe has a vast, just expert knowledge when it comes to the material, and that was something I had not received so much in the past. It was almost like for me, the big book was sort of like a supplement to meetings and doing good stuff. Whereas now I realize just how truly it is the program of recovery. And so just to be able to work with him and to go through the material and realize that everything I need is right there. And I think it has changed my entire outlook. I've started to do things differently. Every night and every morning now, I'm looking for how I can serve God and His kids, as opposed to once a week I might remember to read that part and say it if I had a really lousy day. Now, whether the day is bad or whether it's good, I try to do the same thing. And granted, not perfect yet, but I feel much more stable about it. And so I think that this go around feels much more concrete. So thank you all, and God bless.
And then our next birthday is Lynn with 1 year.
Hey everybody, I'm Lisa. I'm Lynn's sponsor, and I'm an alcoholic, of course. She has worked so hard. Sometimes I consider her a walking encyclopedia as far as the steps and spirituality. She just works really hard, and I'm really proud of her. And with that, I'll give her a chip. Thank you. Good job.
My name is Lynn, and I'm an alcoholic, and I'm in recovery. In my first 90 days, I came here. I wanted the misery to stop. I'm originally from New York. I had a difficult childhood. I was taken away twice. My alcoholic parents didn't know how to take care of us, but they did their best. And I'm the oldest of three. I'm the only girl. I have two younger brothers. I was the protector. I was the fixer. I was the referee. I was the mom and dad. I was the bill payer. I was the enabler. And I had a dysfunctional family. We were a Catholic family. And we went to church. We acted like nothing happened. So when we came home, everything just went haywire. Went back to church and acted like nothing happened. That went on all my life, and I was the least popular kid in school. I ate my lunch in the bathroom when everybody else was in the cafeteria. And then after a while, I just turned to alcohol because I was withdrawn. And calamity came in, and anger toward God, because I didn't think He understood me as much as the hard things were going on. My parents, my dad went to prison, and then I was angry, and I really started partying. I quit school in my 12th year. And I started really acting out and doing self-will and my little run riot. So I have three beautiful kids, and they're grown. And I did my kids up for adoption. I was honest with them because I couldn't take care of them, and it was a closed adoption. So then I did my way for a long time, and my first time in recovery was 19. I relapsed after 5 years, and I didn't know how to stay sober and live a happy life. And I had to learn the hard way. Another 20 years out there. And I was very inconsiderate with my family. Did what I wanted. Hard-headed. Resentments all the way because I didn't love any of them for what they were doing to me. And it wasn't my fault. Oh, yeah. So I had to start taking accountability for my actions when I seen the bridge August 10th of 2018. And nobody was there. I was left alone. I didn't have one friend, one human being, one drinking associate, or one drug addict that could help me to keep me from dying, because I was dying on the inside. But if I jumped, I wouldn't be here sitting here talking to you about my experience at home. I seen God and He told me I had a purpose. I didn't question it. And I took responsibility for my actions by asking for help. I spent 6 days in the hospital with withdrawal. I had jitters and I had neck sweats and I was forced on my knees because I could not handle the jitters or the withdrawals anymore. And finally, the doctor said the truth. I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. Those were my first 2 diagnoses on that paper. And I looked at him and the paper about 5 times and I said, I don't believe you. And he said, you either need rehab or AA. And so I went to Alcoholics Anonymous on Cedar Street in Schenectady, and I raised my hand in tears saying I needed help. And a young lady came up to me and said, here's a marble, a 24-hour kit, and a big book. The marble is to giving your sanity back. The 24-hour tip was because I stayed sober for 5 days, or 6 days, sorry. And the big book was to give me the instructions of how to live life without alcoholism and drug addiction. So New York was too much for me, so I came to South Dakota, and I searched out a sponsor. And this is where my recovery began. And my sponsor and I worked in the back room of West Side on the 4th and 5th step after we did the first 3 steps together. And I wanted the misery to stop because I didn't want to be miserable anymore. I wanted this pain to go away really bad. I asked her, what do I have to do? It's not why do I have this problem. It's what do I have to do to keep sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So we read the big book, and I did my list, and I keep writing in my journal, by the way. I love to write, and more will be revealed. And after 90 days, I had to go back home, and I trudged through the recovery there. And made my amends to my parents. I worked on my character defects, and I found a sponsor there too. So while I worked with my sponsor in New York, I kept updates with my sponsor here. I kept calling her. And the amazing thing is, I don't have to stop calling my sponsor just because I'm not here. It's a powerful tool because it's expanded. My network is powerful because just because I'm here doesn't mean I can't call women from New York. And I love them just as much as I do from the women here. And I learned to love myself today and know myself through the 4th and 5th step. Because not everything about me is bad. It's taught me to be unselfish and caring and compassionate. And those are the tools I need to work with others who have a problem with alcoholism and has less time than me. I understand women today who are broken and busted and maybe has gone through the same problems as me. And I used to be so insecure and unsure of myself. And today I have goals. And today I have a promise through my higher power and His will. And I thank this group for teaching me that, because I love you all. And even when I was in New York, I thought of you all. And I kept the tools of this program in my heart. My big book, I had to renew because it fell apart. And that's my lifesaver. You know, that's how it works. When I read it, I study it, and I apply it in my everyday life. I don't know, I have a lot of gratitude, and I try to carry the message and not the mess. Like people said from New York, and I do the next right thing and be myself, because I know who I am today, and I'm loved. Thank you.
Congratulations, Linda, thank you. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our next birthday, Michael D., with 28 years. Come on up, Michael.
That's a little weird, I'll be honest with you. It's not unwelcome, it's just a little weird. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Donnelly. I'm an alcoholic. And I got to tell you, it's a very humbling time to ever get one of these. I was always taught that speaker meetings, when asked to speak, are about telling your story. And birthdays are about saying thank you. And so it's not really about me tonight. It's really about the people that came alongside of me when I came in that helped me get here, because I could not get here by myself at all. And I think of my sponsors. And over the years, I've had a number of them. And not only those men, but their sponsors and their sponsors, and that sort of family of sponsorship that has come alongside of me. You know, I think of my first sponsor, Joe Friday, you know, and Mark, and Gosh and Dick for so long, and Keith, and my current sponsor, Don. And those are men that were in the book and talked the book. They didn't give me their opinion. They gave me the truth. I want to thank my wife, Marcia, for being here tonight. I have to say, she's a wonderful lady, and I mean it. I have to say that. Long ride home if I don't. No, I'm just kidding, joking. She is absolutely everything a man like me needs in a woman, and a partner, and a friend. I love her to death, and I cannot even believe the relationship that we have today because of this program. But she endured a lot over the years, and she stood by me and stayed with me and kept loving me in spite of those times when I didn't deserve that. And so thank you. I have two boys, Colin and Cody, who aren't here, but man, I love them to death. They're just tremendous young men. If you have had the privilege of meeting them, you know I'm not exaggerating that. My daughter-in-law, Teresa, is, man, this gal is so special. And my three grandchildren, Grace and Hank and Rose, just every time I get a chance to love on them, man, I'm all over it. I'm doing it. I don't care what's in front of me. I'm moving what's in front of me out of the way and going to them. The men that I sponsor, and many of you are here tonight, and I can't tell you how appreciative I am of you. And most of you, all but Shane. I mean the guys who actually work the steps is what I was trying to refer to. It's fair. And But I mean that. I really love you. And, you know, the calls, the conversations, watching you grow and mature as men, You know, watching you recognize that Alcoholics Anonymous isn't a Facebook page and a meme that sounds special and clever and witty, that it's something that's deep and profound, that it's bigger than a little picture with a cool little pond on it and some spiritual saying that's a sentence long. That's not AA, right? It might provoke a thought, which is beautiful, no criticism on that. But Alcoholics Anonymous is a book, and it's a book first. And that's where Alcoholics Anonymous, the meetings, gets their name, from the book, not the other way around. They had a book first, and they did work first, and the meetings developed out of that, right? And so if you're here tonight, I just want to welcome you to the Treasure Map group, and I want to welcome you to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I want to say thank you also for being here. Because without the new people coming in, without the people who don't know how to work this thing, I would be in serious trouble. One of the greatest gifts I've been given is the gift of the 12th step. And if you're here tonight and you've done a lot of talking about the steps and very little work, if you're here tonight and you've regurgitated what you've heard other people say, lacking the experience of actually doing it yourself, right? If you're here tonight and for some reason your head keeps telling you, there's something missing, I got to tell you, you're in the right place and you're with the right people. Come to us and ask us for help. We can't see everything. We'll try to do and we'll try to reach out as best we can. But if you're in that position, please reach out, right? And hopefully the home group members who are here won't give you a meme on a Facebook page. Hopefully what they give you is a cup of coffee at their kitchen table or in a coffee shop and 2 books open with a highlighter and a pen. Because Alcoholics Anonymous is about a conversion that takes place by means of the 12 steps. Not a meeting attendance regiment, although that's part of it, right? I could not have met my God in the way I met my God had I just gone to meetings. I would have sold myself way short, and I don't know if I'd be standing here tonight. God bless you all. Thank you, and look forward to hearing Trav. Thanks, Trav. God bless you guys. Thank you.
Congratulations, Michael. Was there anybody that we missed that has a birthday? Okay. Come on up. Come on up. Come in. 8 months. 8 months. Yeah, perfect.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My name's Tyler. I'm an addict. There's a lot of people here. 8 months is crazy to me. I would have never imagined it to be possible, and it's not me that made it possible, you know. It's finding my higher power. And I don't know, something that the book, and actually I've been working the NA program right now, but I just go to all of them. I don't know. I don't discriminate. But anyways, like what the book has taught me is these answers that we're looking for, these things that we're missing, they're all inside of us, you know, already. Like it's already there. You just need to find it. You need to let go of your reservations, your guilt, and your shame, and just look inside of you. And that's where God is. For me, you know, that's where my God is. So with that, I'll pass.
Congratulations to you and all. Go ahead.
I didn't get this hang in there baby for no reason. And this, because of Mike Donnelly right there. When he came and spoke at Keystone, he lifted a lot of people. And grateful, man.
So with that, let's take a break, eat some cake, and then we'll hear from Travis after the break. Thank you. That's what we're here for. I gotta help her out Matt, Matt, somebody's. Oh, yeah, so what I do is go in and press on the door on the walk around every year. I got a bunch of rocks and all, and now I staff the area. So that, but then it's gonna last.
See how at the base with the ivy, the combo bends about a foot short? There, yeah, that one. These ones are trying to do the same thing. That
Did everybody get enough cake? All right. I also have here a couple announcements before we have our main speaker, Travis, speak. We want to make a special mention on our online listeners. We have heard from you and are trying to make your experience even better. Thank you for being with us tonight. If during this meeting you experience a lapse in hearing us, please post a note on our Secret Face group page. We will be monitoring it throughout the meeting. Our free Big Book Study worksheets are at treasuremap.com. Many are using these sheets to assist with their own personal Big Book studies, complements of sponsorships, duties, and aid in their step work. These sheets should not be considered as a final word on the Big Book, only as a guide that has been helpful to us. We realize we know only a little. And with that, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Travis from Brookings. Please come on up.
Sir. Hello, everybody. My name is Travis. I'm an alcoholic. Grateful alcoholic. September 29th, I'll have 9 years of sobriety. Closing on a decade, right? Well, a little background on me. I grew up about 40 miles that way in northwest Iowa. It takes me longer to drive there from here than it does back home. And I don't want to go stay with my parents again, unless I absolutely need to. Let's see. Oop, I hit the off button. Better? Okay. Had a fairly normal childhood. Nothing real exciting. I wish I could tell you my first drink labeled me as an alcoholic. I was in Newton Hill State Park up in Canton. And I remember going through a divorce with a kid for the very first time. He had his mom dating in a divorcee group. I don't even know how that works, but he had a 21-year-old son, and he was nice enough to buy us a couple of half liters of Bartles and James peach wine cooler. Wow, hit the hard stuff right off the bat, right? But thank you for your support. If you know what that means, you're old, right? At any rate, I wish I could say it was awful. I threw up. I had a terrible time. I wasn't an alcoholic right away. It was a good time. I had fun. It was a ball. I was 14. I was away from my folks, and I was getting drunk. And I didn't take another serious drink for a long time after that, probably 3-4 years. In between there, some things were happening. I never knew my father to be an alcoholic, but I knew he had a bottle of Seagram 7 underneath the counter for show. He had one in his truck and he had one in his garage. I didn't know what that meant until some time later, but it came to me. Let's see, just to backtrack just a little bit, my first real drink was from a green glass goblet that he had left up on the counter, and I think I was about 12, and I was looking for a glass of water, and I took a big drink of Seagram 7, watered down. Wasn't much water. I didn't think much of alcohol then either. As I grew up, I had the normal insecurities of being a teenager, but it was about 17 or 18 when I started running into a group of kids that were drinking on a regular basis. And that's when I started noticing that this was a lot more fun than what they thought it was going to be. I was drinking more than I needed to. I was staying at the party longer than I needed to. I had a job in Canton, South Dakota. There was more drugs in South Dakota. There was more access to alcohol, and the women treated you better in South Dakota. So I stayed. But in South Dakota, I took a job at Casey's, and I was hanging out with a woman that was maybe 6 years my senior. And she would buy me booze all the time. She'd been in and out of rehab, and this is This is why I love Bill, because he had good foreshadowing technique. In the first chapter, it talks about the doggerel and musket or pot and the whole thing like that, right? She had been in rehab 2 or 3 times, and I asked her for a bottle of vodka one night, and she looked at me and said, "Okay, but this is the last time I think you have a problem." I didn't pay a lot of attention to that because I had 20 more years of fun in front of me coming. But after I got done with that, I started convincing the little old lady that I worked with that was 40 years my senior to buy me booze once in a while. I don't know how I did that, but she did. Still not a huge problem. I still lie to this day. Every time I tell that part of the sentence, I always forget about the part where I'm in Canton and I'm coming home and I'm throwing up a whole 32-ounce gallon Gatorade orange. For about 15 years, I couldn't eat and drink orange Gatorade. My mom's standing over in the corner. She's looking at me and she's saying, "Is there anything I can do to help?" And all I can tell her is to get the hell away from me. Because at this point, I'm sick and I don't need you anymore. And you're my mom and you love me. And you can't help me because you don't know what I have. I'm starting to drink more and more and get introduced to marijuana. I decided to go to Southeastern Votech because I don't want to hang out in a convenience store working away my life doing what I'm doing right now. I think that's my great escape. Well, I found out in college, you drink more and you smoke more, right? So I'm at Southeast Votech, and I really am not making my first class because that's interfering with me staying up until 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, drinking, smoking, doing whatever. And it didn't matter because I'd get there in the morning and we'd go out, smoke pot, come back in and do drawing classes, right? And for about a year, that was a great existence. The girlfriend I had at the time, I still owe an amends to. We did it for 3 years. I asked her to marry me. It's going to come a little bit later here, but she started noticing some signs too. You have to drink so much. Why are you drinking so much? Why do we always have to drink? You've all heard that before. By the time I get to the second year of college, I'm a mess. And they're telling me I'm not going to graduate. Because that first class that I hated so much, they expected me to pass it. And my prof told me that I was failing the class and that I didn't have enough credits to graduate. So rather than take care of that, I went up on stage and pretended I graduated. They didn't give me a degree, but they still wanted their money. And the only way I could see around that was to join the military. Again, not a good place to go if you're an alcoholic, because from high school to college to the military is actually going from high school back up to college again. In the military, I really learned how to drink. It was everywhere. Everybody was doing it. And we were in Augusta, Georgia. We got drunk one afternoon and went up to the gates and waved to the guys that could play golf better than us. They wouldn't let us on, but they don't let anybody on. But at any rate, I have pictures of me sitting in a bathtub full of ice and a baseball cap with a cigarette hanging out of my mouth at 3 in the morning drinking a beer. And I used to think, God, that is the coolest picture I have ever taken. I'm going to show this to my kids, right? By this time, everybody's kind of saying something. Hey, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. We're all going to bed. You know, we want to do this again tomorrow morning. Just go to bed. You don't have to have another beer. And I was having another beer. Meanwhile, the girl I'm going to get engaged to is back home waiting for me. And I'm calling her and telling her, pick out a ring, man. I'm coming home. We're going to get married. I wasn't exactly real faithful to that girl while I was there. And that kind of followed me back to South Dakota. And I came back here and told her I didn't want to be with her anymore. She got married. She has 2 beautiful kids. They're in college. She loves her husband. I haven't seen her in 18 years. No, wait, I'm old. 24 years. At any rate, it's been a long time. I still owe her something, and I haven't talked to my sponsor about it yet. I keep saying I'm going to talk to my sponsor about it. I even went to his home group and said I'm going to talk to my sponsor about it, and I haven't talked to my sponsor about it yet. If I say it out loud enough, maybe it'll happen. But at any rate, thank God for unanswered prayers, because that's where I met my wife now of 21 years. And we were smoking. We went out drinking in Huron, South Dakota. We decided to get married I took her up to the cathedral up here and got down on one knee, like a good Catholic. I wasn't Catholic at the time. I was going to Catholic classes, so it looked good to mom and dad. We got married, and within 6 months, I got my first DWI. She went to visit her sister down in Crofton, Nebraska. And her family started showing signs of concern. I had the luxury of being down in Canton, South Dakota, at a highway patrolman, a Lincoln County sheriff, and a city cop all visiting me because we were in a hinky part of that county where all 3 of them evidently were required to be there. And they hauled me off to jail, and I refused the blood draw because my mother worked at the hospital once again. I didn't want to sit in the hospital at 5 o'clock in the morning when mom walks in. Ask me what I'm doing. Making a donation, Mom. But so I get my first DWI. I don't learn my lesson. 2 weeks later, I'm driving again, going out of the same town, using a different route because they're not that smart. I had a cop follow me to the Iowa border. I don't know why to this day why he didn't turn his lights on. I don't know why I don't have a second DWI. But it took me about an extra 45 minutes to get back home that night because I think I drove through every gravel road I knew that I could get out of to get back home. So that was grace of God stuff right there. Meanwhile, I'm in the National Guard and I want out terribly. And I'm introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous for the first time. A man named Lauren, I don't know his last name. He pulled me to the side and said, "Do you really want to do something about this?" I cried. Yes, I do. My life sucks. It's terrible. I want to do something. We got to Guernsey, Wyoming. He says, "How are you doing?" And I proceed to drink a 12-pack of beer while I'm shooting pool in front of him and tell him, "I'm doing great, man. I'm not drinking that much. I've slowed down a little bit, right? I got to go get another beer. I'll finish my story here in a little bit." And at the end of my stint in the National Guard, usually they're recruiting to keep you in the unit because they want you to stay. They want to keep their numbers up. On the day I left, I don't think too many people said goodbye. You got 9 AWOLs for a year. For 5 years, I think I used all 9 of mine every year. I didn't show up. I wasn't a good soldier. Here's where the story starts to take a turn. My wife can't support me in my habit and buy a house at the same time, so she decides to take a job with the Army National Guard full time. And we decide kids will help, right? So we get pregnant. About halfway through, they find out they missed a heartbeat. I have twin boys. They're both turning 16 in November. They're awesome. There's AA love, and I understand that, Mike, when you talk about that. It makes my heart big and proud. But when you talk about your children and your grandchildren, I just can't help but well up because everything I'm learning in AA, I hope to pass on to them. Unfortunately, I have one that's already tried marijuana. and we caught him drinking on a camping trip this year. So turnabout's fair play, right? Let's see, where was I going? Oh yeah, we have the kids, and as far as drunk logs go, I don't want to tell too many. I don't have funny ones. I have horrific ones. My least favorite one to tell, but I think it's part of who I was as an alcoholic. My wife is at guards, and I'm alone in the house, and I have to feed 2 baby boys formula. And I didn't want to wake up at separate times because I was drunk. So I took both babies and I put them in my arms and I was feeding them. Well, I woke up the next morning and I couldn't find them. They were one laying on the floor over here and one laying over on the couch over here. It's the first time I've made it through that without bawling like a baby. I put myself in front of everything up to that point. And then my wife gave me an ultimatum because she started to find, and here's where I figured out where my dad was hiding all of his bottles and why he was doing it. I can't say he was an alcoholic, but he quit suddenly and my mom suddenly became a happier person. She was finding my bottles. I was putting them in the crawl space, behind the water heater, behind this, behind that, everywhere in my vehicle. And I'd have to wait till she'd go to guards and fill up garbage bags full of the stuff and drag them off somewhere to hide them. Heard the story 100 times. But she gave me an ultimatum. She said, you need to quit. And so I did. And her job moved her to Brookings. And that's where we went. Now there's a lot of stuff to move, and I got up there, and I had done most of the work, and I let everybody know that I did most of the work. Mike and I were talking to me, they're building a life-size statue of my ego out in the parking lot, right? But I got up there, and we got everything put away, and she had her guard weekend, and we had a bottle of rum above our refrigerator, and I thought, you know what? I deserve a drink. And so I had a drink. I don't remember anything about that night. I can't identify with people who say once you start, you slowly go, and then you get right back to where you are, and then what's worse. I stepped right on the throttle. I was drunk, blackout drunk that night. She didn't seem to notice, so I took right back off. Didn't take long. She figured out what was going on. I did some outpatient treatment at Eastern Behavioral in Brookings, and I couldn't handle sitting around with a bunch of people talking about how much paper they had on their lives. To me, it was just a bunch of people talking about, this is my third, but I really only have 2 because the first one came off 5 years ago. And I got up and I walked out of every one of those meetings thinking this is not doing the trick. There's something happening here and I don't know what it is. I need to do something. So my wife decides to have some people over and she puts me in charge of making drinks because that's a good idea, right? So we were making homemade sangria, and everybody's just raving. Oh, this is awesome. This is awesome. This is awesome. Nobody has said, you should try some of this. So I said it. And I poured myself a glass and got bombed. That lasted almost a year. And my wife accused me of being drunk every night, and we would scream at each other. And I would say, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. And one afternoon, she walked up the stairs with a bottle of vodka that I had hidden in the water softener and set it down on the counter in front of me and said, I know you're drinking. You need to find someplace to live. She sat that bottle down on the stairs and she left. And I had no idea where she was going. And I tell this story quite a bit because this is my first attempt at a step 1. I didn't hit my knees. I leaned down on our kitchen counter and I said, help me. And I didn't know who I was talking to, what I was saying, why I was saying it. But I remember it very vividly. I said, help me. To anybody out there that was listening. Well, eventually she came home. She still hadn't regained her sense of humor. And she told me I needed to find a place to live. I said, well, I'll get help. This time I swear to God, I'll get help. And she says, fine, you're doing it. I'm not helping you do anything. You're doing it all. You're making the phone calls. You're doing it all, which was awesome because I needed that kick in the keister. So I make some phone calls, get all the insurance people. I'm crying to everybody. Anybody that'll listen to me, I'm crying. I mean, I'm bawling. I get a hold of Worthmore up in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and I go up to the big yellow house. I've collected comic books my entire life. I have like 40,000 of them in boxes down underneath my stairs in my basement. My favorite thing about going to Worthmore was I figured out my superpower. I finally had one, right? I could pick out the drunk in the room. I didn't know what that was just at that time. I knew you were a drunk just because of the way you talked, because you were me. I knew who you were because I was you. And that was awesome. For a little while, it made me kind of a hero because I could pull the BS out of your story and throw it back into your face. Because I knew you were lying. Because that's a lie I used. And that's a lie I used on everybody. After 28 days, that got old. I called back to Brookings because they told me I needed to get a sponsor. And I read the big book about twice, the first 164 pages. Of course, I read it as fast as I could because, you know, that's the way you got to do things, is get it done as quick as you possibly can. I called back. I don't know if I got Bob or not. I like to pretend that Bob answered the phone. And I said, I need a sponsor. And he says, who is this? I told him who I was, and he says, I tell you what, how about you wait till you get back to Brookings and we'll talk about sponsorship. Now, the best part about being in Aberdeen was you went to a meeting every day. You got to go to the big yellow house. I met some great old timers. I sat in line and thought to myself, would you just shut up and let somebody else talk? I went through about 2 weeks of that before I started figuring out I wasn't listening to anybody. I spent more time figuring out how I looked like I was listening to somebody than I did actually listening to people. So by the time I got done with that and I actually started listening, I realized that other people, I wasn't the only one. Other people had this superpower too. And we were all sitting in the same room. And all the ones that were serious about it had something good to say. You know, how you're sitting in a meeting and somebody always says, wow, this is just what I needed to hear today. Now it's like, that's like the 10,918th time I've heard that. But back then, it was just what I needed to hear. One last thing about treatment. I remember we had a visitation day and my wife came up to see me. And she took our 2 kids and I was happy to see them. And I can just remember from her body language and her demeanor, she could have cared less if she was there. So I'm in treatment. I'm on my way home here pretty quick, and I'm pretty sure I'm getting a divorce. Some reason, I get home, we're still together, and we stay together. And I start going to the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. I spent six months rolling around, banging my head against the walls, trying to listen, trying to read whatever I could. I remember coming to some big book meetings down here in Sioux Falls, down by Augustana. Great experience. I spent time seeking out people who knew what they were talking about. I tried to listen to the people that were doing the deal. like they talked about, pick out the winners, stay with the winners. But I hadn't got a sponsor. I wasn't working steps, and I knew I had to. So I started going over down, we call Touchdown Jesus, obviously stolen from a Lutheran church from the Notre Dame people. Let me get that in there. But I started going there, and I met somebody's wife, and I had seen him a couple of times, and I picked out Dave. I just said, fine, I'll have a sponsor. So I started working the steps. Now I understand what being powerless over alcohol means. I thought I understood that my life was unmanageable. The God part I didn't have a problem with, when you get to the book and it says, now we are going to talk about God. And they say, we're not really talking about God, we're talking about your conception of higher power. It's capital G-O-D. First time I saw that one, no, we're talking about God, right? So, growing up in a strong religious family, I'd done my share of that thing. One of the reasons I walked away from my church was they were preaching to you, or at least that's what I heard. But one thing I do remember them always saying was, you want to get to the place you want to be, you have to get a new heart. I did not know that was going to be my end goal when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. I thought I was going to try and stop drinking, thought I was going to get sober, and everything was going to be magnificent. I struggled a little bit with that. Dave pushed me along. I got my 4th step written. And the best thing that happened for a start, my first 4th step was me telling a nun that I had abused pornography, that misused women's friendships. And as confident as I was walking into my first 4th step, I walked out like this tall. I thought I was going to scare the hell out of her. And funny story is she moved to our parish from Aberdeen. First time I saw her, I ran into her and I was like, hey, how you doing, sister? She had no idea who I was. That's how much of an impact I made. Remember the pornography? So I do my 5th step with Dave, and we're driving around in his pickup, which was unusual for me. And by this time, it's about my third, 4th step, because I'd done one with the group, I'd done one over at treatment, and he had a different way of doing it. But they told me to do it the way my sponsor did it, so that's the way I did it. It was a clear path of showing me how to work with other alcoholics. He gave me examples of how he could relate to my story. He told me some of the paths that he took to fix the things that he did, cleaning up his side of the street. From there, I just continued with the steps and kept going and going. When I got to 8 and 9, scared me just like any other ones, but I found that most of the big ones weren't nearly as scary as I thought they were going to be. Most of those people were willing to just, yeah, okay, fine. It didn't hurt me as much as it hurt you, I think, who was it, Neil Young, it didn't mean that much to me to mean that much to you, right? And so that was awesome. The ones I had the hardest problems were the small ones, right? The ones that I thought were going to be easy that I just glossed right over. Usually those were the people that hiccuped on me. So it went exactly the wrong way. A very strange one I had at work one time while I was working on this, and I thought it would be an easy one. We got over a fight over a broom. A woman had moved a broom. It was my broom. She'd moved my broom, right? This is not your broom. It's my broom. But it's the company's broom. Neither one of us own it, right? So I go to tell her that she didn't need to move her broom. And she lost it. So the next day, I have to make an amend, right? So I go to this woman and it's a broom, not that big of a deal. I'll just make an amend, everything will be fine. And I told her I was wrong for the way that I reacted, and I told her that I was willing to make it right. And she just started crying. Evidently, I'm not the first one that had ever done this to her. And that struck me, how much my life affects other people's lives. So from that point on, I had to start listening to a group of guys that I go to a meeting on Saturday mornings with. And when you talk about love, it's not a men's meeting. Everybody's welcome. But I feel love in that room. I never walk away from that meeting feeling anything but good, no matter what happens. I have had so much hope in my life following the steps. And when you get to the 12th step and you get to sponsor somebody on, three of the first things I decided I wanted to chair our business meeting. I went to my sponsor because I'm sure he was going to say no because I was too young in the program. He said yes. I had a kid come up to me in a meeting that I started, the meeting. I asked him if I should do the Sunday morning meeting, chair the meeting. And I thought for sure he was going to say no because I don't have enough sobriety. He said yes. And then the third one I knew the answer to, but I just wanted him to say no, even though I knew the answer was yes, was to sponsor somebody. And I don't know how it would have worked out for me if he wouldn't have worked out, but he lives in Mitchell now and he seems to be doing fine. My first sponsee was a success. Now I had a few in between that didn't work out so well, but you know, that's their story. But up to this point, 9 years sobriety, and if this doesn't tie together, I apologize later, but I thought I had things pretty good. Not that I had graduated. I have a solid relationship with my higher power. I pray every morning. I pray every night. I pray at meals. I tell my kids I pray. I tried to bring that into my life. I have a list in front of me or back home with my first 4 step. That is an ideal of how I would love to live life and not be the man that I used to be and be the man that I want to be. I started doing things like putting my name on a phone list, and people would call me and ask for rides, and I would take them to Alcoholics Anonymous. My favorite this last year was during winter. A man from Cleveland with 30 years wanted to talk about the 4 absolutes. I was looking for a topic for Saturday morning. I had a topic. We're all there for each other. Life was great. My wife came to me about 7 months ago and said, for 3 years she's been saying, I hate my job, 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 I hate my job. I want to move. And I'm like, no, we can't move. The kids need to continue to go to school here. I hate my job, I hate my job, I hate my job, I hate my job. The part of me that still likes control was comfortable. I wanted to stay in Brookings. Her unit was moving down to Sioux Falls. I am not trying to put down my wife. I love my wife. We've survived a lot, made it to this point. It's very important that you know that. She also had another choice, to move to Pierre for the summer and join a unit that was moving back to Brookings. Brookings unit moving to Sioux Falls, the Pierre unit moving to Brookings. Going into the Pierre unit, she knew she was going to be deployed. The words out of my mouth, because I thought she still had a sense of humor, or this is your choice. This is all you, because I don't want you to resent me for anything because I've done so much crap to you. I want you to be happy for once. My life-size statue outside thought there's no way she will leave me and my children behind. She came to me a week later and said, I took the job in Pierre. I'm going to be moving out there for the summer and I'll be deploying at the end of August or end of July. It's been a month now. I thought I was beyond a lot of the stuff I was experiencing at that point. I saved this for last because I didn't want to bawl my eyes out the whole time I was doing it. Last weekend, my ego decided that I'd been practicing the speech enough that it sounded delicate enough that the blow wasn't going to come too hard, that I was going to talk to her about the choice she had made. Keep in mind, she's been in Iraq for 2 weeks at this point. I'm at my favorite meeting. Saturday morning, we're about to talk about fear and self-centeredness. I don't know why. I didn't think she was going to call. I told everybody at the meeting I'm going to turn my phone on. She calls. So I walk outside and I tell my wife that she's a terrible daughter, that she's a terrible wife, and that she is a terrible mother. All because she left me. And I didn't say those words, but I may as well have done it. Now, thank God I pray every day. Thank God I keep an open relationship with my higher power, because if I hadn't, I know people say I might as well have been drinking. I don't like to say that because drinking would not have been better at all. I got to walk back into that same meeting and 2 people away from me sits Craig and he says something and I refuse to say anything. But as soon as I sat down, I heard God. How did that go for you? And it was as if he pulled back the curtain. And the best gift I have received in Alcoholics Anonymous came to me before I called my sponsor. He showed me what it was like to have somebody you love do something that you didn't want them to do, and they left, and there was nothing you could do about it because they made that decision. And the best thing you could do was call them on it and tell them that they were wrong. So I called my sponsor, and he mentioned something about some pages after 58 and 60, something about the director. Read it once or twice. But I walked away from this weekend probably better than I have from a lot of meetings in the last 5 years. I cannot believe the amount of things that have been shown to me because I was willing to open my eyes, because I was willing to put on a piece of paper the type of man that I want to be. And when I'm not that type of man, God will whisper in my ear and tell me, is that the type of man you want to be? I don't have to drink. Alcohol is not my problem. That was relieved 8.5 years ago. And I did my 5th step and I started doing some things like making amends and getting serious about all that other things. My problem is I'm a chronic human being that's very selfish, and I can be unruly at times. My favorite part about the 4 absolutes that we talked about at any rate, and the questions that came up was, you can't make perfection, but you can shoot for perfection and you can get to here. Maybe I wasn't listening when they talked about that in meetings, but that was pretty amazing to me. Thank you for listening tonight. Thank you for having me. It was time for me to do something like this with an experience like that last weekend. Thank you, and that's all I got tonight.